Hello and welcome back to another day in the arena. It's me, it's CGB. Today in the arena, there is a new set coming. Apparently it's launching on Arena on September 1st, which is less than a month away now as I record this. Like, it is around the corner and it couldn't come sooner. It is Dominaria United, and it feels like a long time since I've had a chance to look at cards and think about how they will impact Standard. When you think about, you know, basically what's happened on Arena for the last several months since New Capenna came out, there's been the Alchemy Horizons Baldur's Gate. Maybe it should just be that set we don't talk about. I don't know. And then there's been the Historic Anthology, and there's been the Explorer Anthology, and on paper there's been Double Masters, and there's been so many things. But the true love of my life, the thing that kept me involved in Magic for so long, is Standard. I legitimately have loved Best of 1 Standard for a decade or more, and then I played Best of 3 Standard before that. It was always, from the day it was created as Type 2, it's been my favorite format. And when people ask me, what is your favorite Standard set, or what is your favorite Standard card, my answer is usually the same. The answer is always the next one, because there's nothing I love more than new cards in Standard. And my favorite time of Standard of all is Rotation, which is approaching soon. We're going to be saying goodbye to Kaldheim and Strixhaven and AFR, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. What's the other set in there that goes away? Zendikar Rising, kind of a forgotten set. It's Luminarch Gas Pirate, the set at this point. But those are all leaving. They're going to be gone. They're no longer Standard legal in September 1st, I think? Very close. So that's exciting. And new cards are starting to be announced. They will start being spoiled next week. So we're going to review that first batch of spoiled cards. Now, before we dive into the cards from Dominaria United, just a quick note. For those of you paper collectors, Wizards did make this announcement that I still just can't believe. This video is not about that announcement, but I'd be crazy if I didn't mention it. There are going to be cards from the original Legends set in collector boosters of this product. Just wow. Holy cow, that is a lot of wow. There's a card called Tabernacle of the Pendrell Veil, and they did reveal it in a video as one of the cards that was opened. I don't know if it's actually in one of these boosters, but that card is like $3,000. It's absolutely insane that they found cases of a set from like 1994 in a warehouse somewhere, and they just opened them and put them in booster packs. Okay, big publicity stunt, big hype for the collector boosters. Kind of wild. I'm wondering, can they do something for Arena? Can they just take some of those famous Elder Dragon Legends? They're not even good, you know, like in Standard or anything. Just can we kind of just put a quick little anthology on Arena so that we can capitalize on a little bit of the hype and get some Historic Brawl Elder Dragon Legends? A few Legends cards, maybe for Historic, maybe a couple. I'm sure Historic would be fine with the Moat in the set, or Tabernacle of the Pendrell Veil. Look them up. Anyway, that's just a little take of mine. I would love to see that. Anytime that there's paper Magic hype, I would love a way for Arena to get in on it that isn't necessarily totally reworking the cards with the exact same art and having them do completely different things. That's all. I'm a simple man. I have simple requests. All right, you ready to review some cards? This first one, I think, is an absolute banger. It's going to see play across the multiverse. It's Swamp. It taps for a black mana. Seems good. I mostly wanted to bring up the art. The stained glass art on these lands. Every set now, there is a clear focus on land art. They figured out that land art sells. Land art drives hype. Land art is sweet. People will pay for this. And on Arena, they pay gems for this. So, yeah, stained glass lands. Gorgeous. It's going to speak to a lot of people. For me, these are above the New Capenna lands. I'm not as into Art Deco. I'm not sure if they beat Neon Dynasty for me. Neon Dynasty was really good. The Innistrad lands were good until they weren't. When you realized you couldn't tell what land your opponent played. You're just like, huh? What are those? The Pokemon lands from Theros Beyond Death, still really good. These are very good. Yeah, these are gonna probably make the list. I don't know if they're gonna beat out the Pokemon lands, and I don't know if they're going to beat out the Kamigawa lands, but they're in like the A tier. They're very cool. And the stained glass theme harkens back to the last time we were like, no, that wasn't on Dominaria. I'm thinking War of the Spark. That was on Ravnica. There were the stained glass planeswalkers that are still really popular cards. They were in all the secret layers too. Oh my goodness. But as always, the best and finest of the land. Tell me that's not the best. You know it's the best. Island. All the way, baby. All the way. So now we get to our first actual new card. Let's get into it. It's a green card. Llanowar Loamspeaker is 1 and a green for an elf druid at rare. It's a 1/3 that taps for 1 mana of any color, and then the tap is target land you control becomes a 3/3 elemental creature with haste until end of turn. It's still a land. Activate only as a sorcery. Is this card good? There have been openings for 2-mana mana dorks to be good in standard at several different points in standard, and the best time for them to be good is right after rotation because there's only 5 sets in standard, so there's not as many powerful cards in the format. This is a mana dork with some serious upside. It can actually beat down, by turning a land into a creature and attacking for 3 in the late game, as opposed to just being out here poking you to death with a 1/3. That's a big difference, and that's very good. Also, killing the land doesn't stop the Llanowar Loamspeaker from sending another land after you the next turn. They have to kill the Loamspeaker. So it does create some awkward points for removal of, like, do you kill the land or do you kill the Loamspeaker? You probably kill the Loamspeaker, but you can't do it at instant speed because if your opponent untaps and then gets to their main phase and then they activate this, you're still going to take 3 from the land. So it does create some weird timing situations with removal. It definitely dies to board wipes, but board wipes haven't been very good in standard recently. I don't know if they will be on rotation. Cards like Fable, the Mirror Breaker, and the Wandering Emperor continue to punish board wipes in big ways. Speaking of the Wandering Emperor, this card isn't particularly good against it, but it's good at casting it. 1 mana of any color is really helpful for casting all kinds of things and fitting it in all kinds of green decks. And it's an elf. Elves have their times. It is a tribe that could rise at any given moment and be a useful tribe. If it's heavily supported in the set, elf decks could be everywhere once again. So it's a cool card. It definitely has an ability that makes it worthy of being a rare mana dork. And I'm going to say this. Most of the mana dorks that see play in standard, like a good amount of them, have 3 toughness because now it doesn't die to shock type effects. It's a lot harder to kill. So I think that Llanowar Loamspeaker is going to have a role to play in some kind of deck, some kind of probably mid-range deck where there are really good 4-drops, really good 5-drops that can have a huge impact on the game. I think that the biggest knock against it is, like, Fable, the Mirror Breaker is a 3-drop, this is a 2-drop, so you probably don't put it in decks with Fable very often. So that Fable is going to be such an ubiquitous part of the format and such a big part of the format that I think that this deck trying to compete with those decks means it's going to need a lot of support in other color combinations like Abzan, green-white, green-blue, things that we don't see much currently in standard. So there needs to be a lot more support for the card, but I think it's got a lot of potential. It also has 2 different borderless arts. So don't know if we're going back to Fallen Empires where every card gets like 5 arts, but that's something we're doing. Oh, I see. It's the Buy a Box promo. So this is the Buy a Box promo art. That makes more sense. It's fine. This is fine. We're not going back to Fallen Empires yet. Sorry to disappoint you. Do the do, baby. Temporal Firestorm. This is the full art version. It's 3 in a red for a sorcery. It has kicker 1 in a white or 1 in a blue. Now, that's kind of wild. Oh, it's and or. So you can also pay this, like, you can cast this for 3 red, 1 white, blue. You can cast it for 3 red, 1 blue. I said it wrong the first time. 3 red, 1 white, or 3 red, 1 blue, or 3 red, 1 white, 1 blue. It can be like 9 mana, and you can get all these effects. Let's see what the kicker effects are, or what the base effects are as well. So choose up to X creatures and or planeswalkers you control, where X is the number of times this spell was kicked. Those permanents phase out. Phase out, huh? So you protect your own stuff. And then its Temporal Firestorm deals 5 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. So, obvious comparison first and foremost is that we're still going to have Burn Down the House in the format. And this is Burn Down the House, but without the modal ability to make devils. So does the ability to kick this for obscene amounts, like 7 or 9 mana, and potentially save your own cards from the board wipe effect, is that better than Burn Down the House making devils? My gut reaction is no. But big but with this card, it depends on how fast the format is. If we can get up to 7 to 9 mana in the average game of Standard, which seems like it doesn't happen that much without a Goldspan Dragon involved, and that card's rotating. But if we can, if the average game of Standard is getting to 7 to 9 mana where this actually saves something, then you would want this more than Burn Down the House, because it's way better than the flexibility of 5 damage to things or 1/1s to have, you know, board wipe everything. Oh, except I keep my planeswalker, except I keep my best creature. Like, those one-sided wipe effects are super game tiltingly powerful. So my gut with this card is no. My gut with this card is that it's going to miss, at least at first. It might get more play without Burn Down the House, but I think those two cards are going to be in Standard together forever. So it has to be a pretty slow Standard. My gut is no. But it's a cool card. And it also paves the way that we might see like these enemy colors with these different colored kicker effects, that there might be some support for enemy color shards. You know what I mean, Jeskai, Mardu, Abzan. And I think that's important because the friendly color pairs are overly supported because of the houses or the families in New Capenna. Like, those are going to have a huge impact. If you're going to play a 3-color deck, you're always going to play a family deck, unless those other color combinations get a lot of support. So that's my take. Let's read about a dragon, shall we? There's a mythic dragon here. Dragon! Shivan Devastator. Red X, Dragon Hydra, Flying Haste. Shivan Devastator enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. It's a fireball to the face as a dragon. Before you guys completely crap on this, and it's always a bad rate. Oh my god, a 2-mana 1/1 Flying Haste. Blah. Or, you know, late in the game, it's like 5-mana 4/4 Flying Haste. We can do better. There is this beautiful card in Magic's history around the Theros block called Mistcutter Hydra that people were not a fan of. And it was a protection from blue X, you know, green and an X. With haste, and that card outperformed everybody's expectations. Now, those were different times, very different power levels to the format, but it feels like we're kind of approaching that power level of around like Khan's era. Like, we're toning it down a lot. So I'm not going to write this card off. Flying is really good and haste is really good. This thing is a straight up, the opponent taps out for a planeswalker, maybe a planeswalker that makes like a creature on the ground as a blocker or ticks up to draw a card. This card can just run over there and murder that planeswalker, but it also wipes out players too. There's a lot of dragon synergy, a lot of it's rotating with AFR, but there's still a number of dragon synergy things floating around. Like, people love dragons, so it'll get played regardless. It's a dragon hydra, so it's got 2 kind of cool factor types on it. And +1/+1 counter synergy seems to be nonstop every set all the time now for wizards. There's always +1/+1 counter effects and synergies in every single format right now. So there might be some really cool things to do with this beyond. Modified cards like Kami Flare immediately jump to mind as something that'll be really good with this card. So I think Shivan Devastator will see play as a mythic. I don't know if it'll be like a 4 of mythic unless the format really breaks in a way that this flying body is amazing almost every time you play it, like for 4 or more mana. more like a 2 of, I'm thinking, but it's a really cool card, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of what dragons await on Dominaria. More cards with Shivan in the name. Let's go. And then we've got this card here, Evolved Sleeper. Evolved Sleeper, 1/1 human. Humans on Dominaria, always built, always very, very great biceps and chest muscles and necks and jaw lines. They're just so ripped on Dominaria, aren't they? Oh my god. Anyway, black creature, 1/1. 1 black mana, becomes a human cleric with base power and toughness 2/2. 1 in a black, becomes if it is a cleric, it gets a death touch counter, and it becomes a Phyrexian human cleric. It gets completed as a 3/3. And then for 1 in a black, if it is a Phyrexian, you put a +1/+1 counter on it, then you draw a card and you lose 1 life. And that is an open-ended ability that you can use as much as you want to, as much as you have mana. So turn after turn, you can be putting 3 mana into this, putting a counter on it, drawing a card, and losing a life. Very cool card that can eat up the first several turns of your curve if the opponent isn't just sitting on removal. These cards, they're also kind of... they're throwing back to classic Magic design, which is something I immediately love about this set after all the wacky stuff we've done on Capenna and with Alchemy and with Kamigawa. It's just been... Magic's been wacky, you guys, for like the first half of this year. And now these are like classic Magic designs. What's the one I know? Warden of the First Tree is the one that I've seen the most. Ascendant Spirit is one you've seen lately. You guys can say Ascendant Spirit didn't take off, but it was good in the decks that supported it. I think Ascendant Spirit problem was a snow problem, and that was the thing that was the most wrong with it. There wasn't that much to do with snow, and there wasn't good mana fixing in it, so it was always stuck in this like bad mono blue deck that was never super competitive. And now we have this card, and this card doesn't have those kind of attachments to anything like snow. It can be in mono black, but it can also be in any black deck, really. And it just scales through the game. It's never a completely wasted or dead card. It's definitely better in a deck that can generate a lot of mana and has mana sinks. Now, on curve, that's where the card struggles a little bit, because, like, can you afford to spend multiple turns making this card better if your opponent's just going to remove it? That's why it's really good in shells that also have removal of their own, so they don't get run over by an opponent who's going, pedal to the metal. Think of like a Boros aggro deck, where this card would normally be very bad. So the deck around it has to be like, remove your thing, level this up when you have the mana, and then it scales through the game. But this card is good. It will probably find a home. If not, people will be forcing it for a little while, but it will probably find a home, at least for the first, 3 months of the format. There will probably be a mid-range, like I think of like Rakdos or Orzhov type deck, where this is the card you want to play. Very good card. I'm looking forward to crafting 4 and seeing if I can make it work. Jaya, the Fiery Negotiator, is 2 and a red legendary Planeswalker Jaya. And this is a mythic, has 4 loyalty to start with and 4 abilities. It's already reminding me of Chandra, Torch of Defiance, which is quite the bar to clear. Anyway, it's nice to see Jaya again, or like Grandma, Chandra's tutor, I guess, some ways to look at it. +1, create a 1/1 red monk creature token with prowess. -1, exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose 1. You may play that card this turn. -2, choose target creature an opponent controls. Whenever you attack this turn, Jaya deals damage equal to the number of attacking creatures to that creature. -8, you get an emblem. Whenever you cast a red instant or sorcery spell, copy it twice. You may choose new targets. All right. So the first thing I'm looking at is, in order to get the emblem, you have to plus this. This has to be out for like 4 turns. You got to go plus, untap, minus. That's a pretty high bar, especially when you're just plussing for 1/1s. Now, yes, they have prowess. If you have a ton of spells in your deck, which you want to anyway to take advantage of the -8, like, they're not just 1/1s, but that's still just asking too much. I'm going to pretend this -8 doesn't really exist. It's also not a completely game-ending emblem on its own. It's kind of weird that it's even here, since they haven't printed emblem effects on a lot of Planeswalkers lately. I'm just gonna pretend that's not there. Okay. The +1. 1/1 monk creature. I guess it's a small chump blocker on the ground, but it's hard to picture where that's great right now. You can throw it under a Thundering Riju, I guess. These creatures are okay. This is kind of classic Planeswalker, except the +1 defends itself and the -1 gives you card advantage, which is probably good. The card advantage is nice. Getting a selection instead of just exiling your top card, because like getting a choice of 2 can make a big difference here, and it is choose one of them. It also says play the card, so you can hit lands off it and put them into play, so that's going to be a lot of what the card does. The -2, the removal is super conditional. Obviously, the -2 is not going to be very effective in a control type deck because you'll have to use the +1 multiple times, and then you'll need something small to use the removal on. But where this card shines is kind of where Chandra Torch of Defiance shined, which is, you know, you play creature, creature, creature. The opponent has a blocker in the way. You slam Chandra, you kill their creature, you attack them with your creatures. Now their life total is under pressure, but there's also this Planeswalker ticking up that can generate card advantage. And you're just buried at that point. You're too far behind. So if you're playing a red deck and you go creature, 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 and then you play this, and then you use the -2, attack with 3 creatures, kill the creature that they were counting on blocking with, or especially if you think about like play patterns against Boros or Mono White, kill your Brutal Cathar, get my creature back. Like, that's really good. So we're probably talking about a little bit of main deck play, 2 or 3 copies in the right curve out deck, and then maybe some sideboard play. It's tough because now that we've seen how Thundering Riju really works in Boros, I think that card is going to own the spot a good amount of the time, but it doesn't dominate the spot the way that Goldspan Dragon would. So, you know, running like more of these along with Thundering Rejus might not be bad. This card has potential. I hate how aggressive it is because it means I'm probably not going to play it in a bunch of the decks I run, but I think like 2 copies of this in an aggressive style deck between deck or sideboard is probably a good call. The card advantage thing can take over a game, and it does a good Chandra Torch of Defiance impression in a standard that's probably around the same power level, the way that things are looking. So Jaya can be good. It's not great, it's not broken, and on its face it doesn't look too exciting, but I think as long as you're curving out with creatures, it can be very, very good. I believe those are the first reveals from the set. So if we're looking at them just right here in this little vacuum, what card is the best? What card is the absolute best here? They're all solid cards and role players in their own way that could see standard play, especially if the meta breaks in a certain way. The card that's most intimidating to me is Jaya the Fiery Negotiator, because I really hate the idea of getting completely run over and having this come down on turn 4, be a removal spell for like the only good blocker I had, and then I'm just too far behind to ever catch up. I can't do anything about it because I have to concern myself with the board. But then I look at that situation and I'm like, well, what if I have a Temporal Firestorm? I can just clean it all up. That's not so bad. So maybe it's not as terrifying as I think it is, and we'll have to shift to Burn Down the House, Temporal Firestorm. We'll still have the Celestis to ramp into it. Those are pretty good looks. Shivan Devastator, though, say they follow up your Temporal Firestorm with a Shivan Devastator. Yeah, the clock is ticking, and if they draw multiple of these, like say they just slam a 1 for 4 or 5 and you kill it, and the next turn they slam another 1 for 4 or 5 and you took like 11 damage, you're probably dead. So I don't know. I think that my favorite card here might actually be the Devastator. It depends on how freewheeling the mana is and how many treasure cards are still in the format and just how hard this thing hits at the right times. I do like the modified thing with Kami Flare. I think that's going to be a big problem. So, Shivan Devastator, I'm giving you the award for my favorite card so far from the set. What do you guys think of the new cards coming in Dominaria United? Very exciting. Early September, it's going to be a clean slate, a fresh start, a new standard, and I'm looking forward to it a lot. I'm going to continue to probably do one talking show a week as we lead up to the set, talking about the cards that have been spoiled, at least my favorite ones, the rares and mythics. As I've said a few times on here on the channel. I don't have a podcast anymore to talk about new cards for Standard and Arena, and I want to make those videos. I really like making that kind of content, so I'm going to make videos here, but don't worry, gameplay videos are right around the corner. I'll find some way to kill the next few months. Let me know in the comments, what do you prefer more? Rotation-proof Standard, Explorer, Historic, or Historic Brawl? Whatever you want is an option. Plenty of people say that, but it's not very helpful. So if you want to rank those or put those in order, some are going to say make a poll. I find polls very low, like base interaction. Like they usually aren't as helpful as you think they are, because people are just like a click. There's no investment. If you guys type a comment and really talk about what you like, that means a lot more to me. So just putting it out there. What do you guys think about content for the next month as we get there? And thank you for watching these videos. I hope you enjoy the talking videos as much as I enjoy making them. Of course, the stats will tell. And, you know, what's the thing I say? Oh, yeah. Thank you for watching this video. As always, I will see you in the next video. You're cool.